Did you get the quiz? I think So far, only four of you have turned it in. So, it, more 80 students are registered there, and only four of you have turned it in. So, if there is any issue, please let me know. Your time is up. Hello? Yeah, your time is up. Uh, Whoever are going to submit after the time may cause some penalty because anyway, whoever is doing late. Okay? So, hello? So you want me to discuss the quiz, but many of you have not submitted it yet. Once every submission will get complete, then only I can discuss it with you. Since all of you have not submitted it yet and we are running out of time already, so let me start the class, and once the entire submission will get complete, I shall discuss the quiz with you. Is it okay? Okay. So let me share my screen and start today's class. Okay. Okay. So I think you are able to view my screen right now. Um, let me share what I think you are able to see my screen. Am I right? Okay, thank you. Now let me start today's discussion. That what we discussed till our last class was that how preference is leading to utility, and there we have I have shown you that if the utility of a preference is higher than the other one, that is if UA is greater than UB, then A should be more preferable than B. Okay, these are the things that I have shown, and if those are equal, then both the preference should, both the choices should be equally preferred. Today, what we are going to discuss is expected utility of a lottery. Now, how it is being computed? The fact is that whenever you are going to compute the expected utility of a lottery, uh, it is actually computed with the equation that is U of P1 S1 to Sn is computed as sum over I So this is how we are going to compute the utility function that exists for an agent. But the fact is that the utility functions are not specific. That is, an agent's behavior should not or is not supposed to get changed, even though it is that even though it gets transferred. Now, how the transformation can happen or what is the rule of transformation, that we are going to show here. That is, even if the utility function, that is u bar x, is going to change linearly, that is with the form of a into u of s. U is the earlier utility function plus b. Here, A should always be greater than 0 and A and B are constant. Therefore, you can see that agent's preference will remain the same even though the function gets linearly changed. It is the variation in linearity. Okay. Now, uh, for example, an agent is playing a game. Okay. Now, whenever the agent is playing a game, agent needs preference ranking on states. That is, for example, the game could be chess or any other games. Then, in which state agents to belong, the preference should be ranked. Okay. So, hello. I think someone's microphone is on. Please mute it. Okay. So now that is why, since you are going to set the preference or you are going to have a ranking in the preference, therefore, uh, for the sake of ranking in the preference, instead of a number, what we have chosen over a number is a function, and that function is known as value function or ordeal utility. So that function is known as value function or ordeal utility. Okay, so this is what it is. Now, as we are already discussing, we have already discussed about utility functions and what constraints an ideal utility function should follow, and everything we have discussed in our last class. So in today's class, we are actually aiming that how we are going to define those utility functions and all. What are the things that we should keep in mind? Now, a utility function have some properties. That is, the function should map the lotteries to real number, and the agents should always follow the axioms, and the agent can have any preference it likes. That is, you can't say that an agent should not prefer a certain thing over a certain thing. That is, for example, you are given with a set of color. Okay. Hello. Yeah, Ranjana. What you are not getting? Are you getting anything or nothing? If it is nothing, then please remember from our last class. Have you attended my last class? If you have attended last class, then you must remembered that where we left. We left in defining that how the preference is leading to utility. Now, what I have discussed today, I have started my discussion from computing the expected utility of a lottery and how the preference remains unchanged even though the utility function changed linearly. That's what we have discussed so far. Okay. Now, I am going to state a few things about or few properties about utility function. That is why we are going to use utility function. Okay. So the first thing that is that, for example, you are given a set of colors and you must be having some set of preferences. You might be preferring, why are you doing this? Are we doing this? Just to map our preference. In my last class, I have told you repeatedly that utility function is what we are expecting, relevance of expected utility. That I have discussed in my last class already. If you did not get it, then you may please send me an email. I shall explain. I shall try to explain the things there, because if I try to explain the things here again, then we will lose. We are going to lose the time. Okay. So now the thing is that for example, you are given with a set of colors. U is the utility. U prime is the changed utility. Okay. U prime is the change. Yes, U prime is the changed utility that is changed linearly. Here U prime is the new utility function over when the actual utility function changed linearly. Okay. So uh, now, for example, you are given with a set of preferences. For example, you have a set of color and you are asked to choose any color. Okay. You may prefer red over white. You may prefer white over red. You may prefer blue over anything. You may prefer black over all the color. Anything. So you can't judge anyone, or you can't say that why should someone prefer black. It is not the thing. Preference could be anything and everything, but there should be a specific ranking in the mind of a person that how the preference is going on. Okay, preference could be anything, or an agent is have the agent does have the liberty to prefer anything over anything. Now the now there are some interesting properties that is related to preference. Human being just have some different properties. Okay, and since we are going to quantify the preference, and that's why we are dealing with so many things like utility functions, maximization of expected utility or expected utility computation, everything to decide the optimal action. So so if we make the utility function continuous, then it becomes value function or ordeal utility. Ordeal utility is not that expected utility function is being continued. Value function is that we are going to rank our preference without a number. Okay, value function is, or ordeal utility is, if we are going to preference, we are going for a preference ranking on states and not assign, and we are not going to assign a particular number to the preference. Instead of, we are going to define a function. Okay. Okay. So now we are going to discuss about utility scale. Okay. So how we are going to discuss that is utility scale, actually, since we are dealing with the huge variety, that is there could be any preference exist, there could be preference ranking. Therefore, we need a utility scale with us, with quantifying of, or with which if you quantify, you can see that yes, this is the more preferable choice, or and this is the less preferable choice. Now, for that purpose, we are coming with another terminology, that is preference elicitation. Okay. Preference elicitation is decision theoretic systems actually needs to work on agent's utility function to take decision of that agent. Actually, whatever we are doing so far is just to make the, since it is the part of artificial intelligence, so obviously we are aiming to make the machines decide. Okay, so the machine should have an entire idea or decision whenever the machine is going to take the decision on behalf on a human being. Say, for example, the machine is going to take the decision on behalf of you, then the machine needs to work on your utility function to take decision or take your decision. Okay, so this is called the preference elicitation. The next thing is normalized utilities. That is normalized utilities. What are these? That is, since we already told you that we are going to discuss about utility scale, reference elicitation. That is a machine, that is decision theoretical system that is going to take the decision on behalf of you. It should have a clear idea of your utility function. For example, you have developed a decision making system, or you have purchased a decision making system from market, which you want to implement to choose, for example, to choose clothes on behalf of you. So there are varieties types of, say, for shirts or trousers like that, those things. But what you are going to prefer, which one you are going to prefer, that the machine should be able to infer. Okay, that inference task is only possible if that machine has a clear idea of your preferences or of your utility function. Which category or which choices could be quantified with which value. That should have a clear idea. That machine should have a clear idea, and then only it can choose on behalf of, or it can select on behalf of you. Okay. So that property is called preference elicitation, that the machine should know your utility function. Then comes normalized utilities, that is scale of preferences. Okay. Now, as you know that we have also a scale of temperature, centigrade scale, Fahrenheit scale, and we have two standards. That is, for example, freezing temperature of water is treated to be 0 degree temperature, and boiling temperature of water is treated to be 100 degrees Celsius. Okay. So this is the scale from 0 to 100 degrees Celsius, and then we have separated out it 100 discrete parts. So each part is treated to be a single degree. Similarly, when you are going to design a preference scale, then the most preferred choice and least preferred choice should have a range, which range you are going to separate out with different degrees of preference. Okay, so the most preferred, best possible reward you are going to assign with your highest preferred choices is actually denoted as you you can see the notations here, that is here in the book itself. These are the notations. Okay, so you can see that best possible price or the most preferred thing is denoted as this, and the least preferred is denoted as U normalized. Now, the fact is that normalized utility is that part when you are going to label the best utility or best preferred, your best preference or best utility or best reward as 1 and the worst one as 0. Then it becomes a normalized scale. Then comes standard lottery. That is, you are given with a utility scale, and the utility of a particular price S can be accessed by asking the agent to choose between S and the lottery. Okay, and that is actually we have already discussed the property of uh, if you remember that in the last class, we have already discussed that there may exist a value of P for which the entire lottery and a particular choice could be indifferent. Okay, if you remember that. So here also, the standard lottery is that lottery when P could be adjusted, or the probability of uh, highest and lowest, probability between highest and lowest. If you can see, I can show it from here, that standard lottery is that thing when this part that is P of UP and 1 minus P of U. That is, this stands for your highest preference or 1, and this stands for 0. Now, P should be adjusted like that, or P should take a value when the choice between this price and these two becomes indifferent. I'm going to show you an example, and I'm going to explain the things. I'm trying to explain the things better. Now, for example, there actually are some value set. Okay. Now, some value assigned to human life is, there is a scale of assigning value to human life, and that scale is known as micromode. Okay, so micromode. It is very strange that when you are going to assign or going to set a value to human life, then it is really strange. But micromode means that 1 in a million. That is, if a million of incidents occur, well, Ranjan, just be patient. I'm trying to give you an example. If the things remain still unclear to you, then just ask. Okay. So micromode is that 1 in a million, the chance of death 1 in a million. So if 1 million such incidents occur, there is a chance of 1 death. Okay. Now, why I am using that term micromode? Just to give you an example that how you can choose or how you can set the utility of life. Now, for example, some person is asked to play a game with million barrel revolver. That is a Russian game. That is million barrel revolver. That is that in 1 million, there actually, if you are given a chance to shoot yourself with that revolver 1 million times, then only once the bullet can hit you. Okay, so here is the chance of death is 1 micromort, that is, the probability is 1 by 1 million. But the fact is that if some person is asked to play the game, he or she will hardly agree to play the game with a very few amount. That is, in exchange of very few amount. A survey was conducted over that, and it is and barely anyone agrees to play the game. Any normal human being agrees to play the game, that is with million barrel revolver. So, and the stake then comes to almost, say, it was about $5,000 or something, or $50,000, I think. Whenever a person is asked to play the game for one shoot, some person was demanding $50,000 since he was keeping his life on stake. But the probability of his death was, or the chance of his death was 1 in a million or 1 micron. Okay, this is one incident with million barrel revolver. The next thing is the same person, how the choice gets changed. That is the fact. When the chance of death is, it is also 1 micromort. Now, the fact is that now with the same assumption, some car builders or some car builders come up with a car model which reduced the chance of accident to half. Okay. Now the fact is that it is observed that if a car runs to 30 miles, then there is a chance of 1 micromort death rate. Okay. Since you are making it half, then if a car runs for 60 miles, then there is a chance of 1 micromort death. Okay. But the fact is that there people are not ready to pay $50,000 per micromort. That is, per 460 miles, people are not ready to pay $50,000. They are only ready to pay $50 per micromort. Okay, that is when the chance of the accident of the car gets reduced, and the car company is asking such an amount, people are ready to pay only $10,000 more for that car, which is making the chance of accidents reduced to half. Okay, that is, people are ready to pay only $50 per 2,000 miles. $50 per 230 miles or 1 micromort or 1 micromort. That is, when the same people is asked to play million barrel revolver, he asked for $50,000 with the same chance of death rate on micromort. Whereas the same people is paying only $50 per micromort when he is going to purchase a car. So this is how the human preference gets varied. You can't decide, or it can't be changed monotonously. You can't decide anything. You can't tell the human preference that if it is giving a stake of this much, then it is going to give the same value for value. It is going to pay the same value for the same reduction. It is not the thing like that. Okay. So this is the fact. Now, since you are paying here only $50, there is almost no people who is ready to kill himself or herself for $50. No one is there. But here people is here everyone almost is paying $50 per micro. There exists another death index that is called QALY, human life valuation quantity. This is micromort and this is QALY. QALY is what? It is the quality of life. For example, you are leading a very poor quality life, then your stake or your value per micromort gets reduced. Okay, that is, say some very sick person, barely able to walk, barely able to do anything by his or her own, then he will be more willing to die, and the valuation of his life is less. That is quantified by that unit QALY. Okay, so are the things clear to you, Ranjan, now? Or are there still some confusion? So these are the things. Now, here comes another thing, that is utility of money. Utility of money. Now, money is such a thing, almost uh, uh, irrespective of any gender, race, or country, or anything, the preference is almost uniform. That is, anybody in this world will prefer more money over less money. Okay, so this is the only monotonic preference actually that can be observed, in human. That is, anybody will prefer more money over less. So now comes an interesting term. This is expected monetary value. Okay, expected monetary value, or EMV. That is, what is it? Expected monetary value is that, well, this is again the example of lottery comes. For example, uh, actually you are given with two choices. One is, say, you are given with two choices of $10,000 and a lottery with equiprobability of 0 or 25,000. So here the example is that, yes, anyone is asking me anything? Monetary is not example of utility. It is expected monetary value is actually you are going to define the utility of money, how it could be defined. Okay, it is an example, you can say, that how the utility of money could be quantified or defined, and how it varies with person to person. That is also very interesting property. Just see. That is, for example, you are given two options. Okay, either you can have $10,000 without without doing anything, or you have to play a lottery. So, for example, you have to play coin toss with equal probability of head and tail. But if you receive a head, you are going to get nothing or $0, or and if it is a tail, you are going to get $25,000. Okay. Now, if the option is given to you, for example, this is option A and this is option B, then what you, if it is, if the option is given to you, which one is you are going to choose? A. This is the general answer. This is the general answer, and this is actually human preference, how it is works. Okay. But now, if you are going to compute the expected monetary value, okay, the EVM of the lottery, how it is going to be computed? Half is the chance of winning 0 plus half is the chance of winning 25,000. So EVM of that lottery is actually 12,500. This is greater than 10,000. Okay. But still you are not going to go for it. Because why? Because you prefer the known possibility. You know that this is the it is your preference, and you should always prefer the definite one. It is definite one. Okay. So that's why, and it does never mean that you are choosing irrationally, or you are choosing something that that you should not choose. That does never mean it. Okay. So whenever you are, it does never mean it. Now, the fact is that how you are going to compute. For example, you are going to accept the lottery, then the expected utility of acceptance, accept, is going to be, for example, you have a sum amount right now, without playing or without having anything, you have certain amount of money that could be denoted by SK. Okay. Say for example SK. Now, once you are going to accept the lottery, the amount of money you will be finally left with could be you half of U S K plus half of U S K plus 25,000. Okay. So this is going to happen if your SK is the money that you are having right now, without having those 10,000 or without playing the lottery. This is if you accept, expected utility of acceptance. If you are going to accept the lottery, then this is what is going to happen. Okay. Now, if you are going to decline, okay, and then what will happen? Then you will be left with the monetary value, that is S of K plus 10,000. Okay. Actually, this should be suffix. So actually if you decline it, you are going to live with this much, that is USK plus 10,000. Now you have some utility of that money in your mind. How? For example, the money that is SK that you are having, you have assigned it an utility of say 5. Okay, that is in your mind. You are not going to there might not necessarily be some logic behind it, but this is what you are thinking like that. Now when this amount comes, you are assigning it a value of say 9. Okay, and similarly when this amount comes, you are assigning it a value of say 8. These are the values that you are going, that is 5, 9, 8 are the values that you are going to assign, or you are going to define the value for money in your mind. For example, right now you have 1 lakh. Now you are going to again gain 10,000, and you are saying that you are thinking that if I have that 10,000, I can do this many things. But if I have 25,000 more, then the utility of that more 25,000 may not be uh, given 2.5 times weightage. Okay, then what happens is that now you can see that then expected utility of acceptance is actually half of 5 plus 9, that is 14. Expected utility of acceptance then is becoming 7, whereas in declining it is becoming 8. Now it sounds logical. Since 8 is greater than 7, you are going to choose decline. Is that clear? Just do half of 5 plus 9. How much is it? How existing money becoming half? No, it is not becoming half. Existing money is not becoming half. You are not getting my point. The point is that the utility of accepting, I have already shown, if you have seen that equation, that is half of 0 plus half of 25,000. Okay, that is expected monetary value of the lottery. 5 plus 8, 8, the value that you have assigned for is K plus 10,000. That is if you have 10,000 more. If it is 100% probability, yes. Yes, it is 100% probability. That's why I am not going to divide it with 2. But since it has half probability, since you are doing, you are playing with a coin toss, with a fair coin, which have equi probability of head and tail, that's why you are dividing the entire thing by 2. Okay, there are 2 possibilities, either USK or USK plus 25,000, but with equi probability, that is divided by. Is that clear? Yes. So this is how actually the expected utility. Yes, your existing money should always be with you. Nothing is going to happen with your existing money. Just think one thing. Forget about existing money and all. You either you are going to receive something or you are going to lose. So either you are going to receive 0 or you are going to receive 25,000 with equi probability. That's why divided by 2. Your existing money will never get half. Don't be worried. Your existing money will remain with you only. Okay? That is why this half is being computed. Okay? Okay. Now, the fact is that this is how actually it is not becoming irrational. Now, another interesting thing that I am going to show you that is how the property varies. This is very interesting. You must be able to see the graphs. Okay. Now, actually, a survey or a study was conducted that people, how much people are willing to stake their life at risk. As someone who is spending at least a bearable life will not be very much, will not prefer very much to debt. That is here minus 1,50,000 stands for a debt amount that is you are going to take from someone. Okay, you have least preference of having some debt, whereas having some or gaining some money, okay, in that case your preference will almost become linear. Initially you will love to gain some money. For example, this is for 10,000, till 10,000 is okay for you, you will love to gain it, but above or as the amount will get increased, the utility for that money remains almost the change same or remains with minor change. This is how the utility for money in a human preference system varies. Okay, this is actually the survey was conducted over various range of people, and everyone least prefers to have some debt. Okay, so this is why it is Mr. Braid. It is called that actually empirical data for Mr. Braid over a limited range. Okay, but if the fact is that you have enough amount of debt, for example, you have a very much amount of debt, minus 1 lakh debt, debit amount already, then you will not be that much afraid to debt 10,000 more. Okay, and that fear or that low preference will not be much, will not impact that much. Whereas the preference here, the preference for more money remains the almost the same, but preference for less money, that is someone is having already a debt amount of 1 lakh, but now he is asked to play a game or play a toss whether he is going to lose either 10,000 or he is going to gain 80,000. Okay, then he will not think much. He, since he is already having 1 lakh of debt amount, having 10,000 more debt amount is not going to matter him that much to compare to that person who has no debt or zero debt. Okay, then he will stake it easily. He will stake that 10,000 amount much more easily than the one who is having zero debt. Is that clear? So this is how the preference for money actually takes a S shape or S curve when the range is much more higher, or the covering the full range curve. Full range curve is going to take that S shape. Is that clear? So this is the fact. Now, these two properties, that is this property is called as risk average, whereas this property is called as risk seeking. Here you are going to take minimum risk or average risk, whereas here you are going to take, you are seeking for risk. You are seeking for risk for, okay. to gain more. So now there comes again very interesting terminology. All of you must be paying, that is insurance premium. What are you doing? What are we doing with it in AI? Let's see. Insurance premium is that how it is decided. Okay. Could you, negative side is having debt. Mr. Aditya, negative side of the curve is having debt minus. Okay. You might not be having a single penny, but you are debting. You are borrowing money from someone. You are borrowing someone, and that is negative. Okay. So insurance premium is what insurance premium is doing here. Insurance premium actually how it is set. That is the important. That is very interesting. For example, I have already given you the example. That is how much you will prefer having $10,000 or having a lottery instead of a lottery. Similarly, if you are giving $400, if you are given $400 or and the option of a lottery with 0 and 1,000, then you must go for choosing 4,000 definitive, 400 definitive. That is $400 and lottery of 0 and $1,000. Okay. So now, if you are asked to quit the lottery, if you quit that lottery, you are going to receive $400. If you play the lottery, you will either get 0, you will either get 0 or 1,000. Okay. For example, it is also a coin toss, with a coin toss. But you will prefer to leave the lottery or quit the lottery with that amount of $400. Okay. So this is actually this part is actually, then what you are going to see that the expected monetary value of the lottery is of 500. I have already discussed how the expected monetary value is computed. Here I am just writing down that EMV of that lottery is actually $500. That difference, that is the money with which you are ready to leave the lottery and the expected monetary value of the lottery, that difference is known as insurance premium. Okay. So insurance premium is the insurance premium is actually this amount, that is with which you are going to leave the lottery, is called certainty equivalent. Okay. This term is called certainty equivalent. Please remember, the minimum value with which you are ready to leave the lottery is called certainty equivalent. Certainty equivalent, and insurance premium is EMP is actually equals to your insurance premium. Okay. So this is how actually insurance premium is being calculated, and this is how every insurance company is going to set their insurance premium. That is small amount. People are ready to invest small amount for gambling, and that is people are ready to invest a small amount than risking his house or his car on fire. For example, you are doing an insurance for your house to protect it from fire. So there is a rarest possibility that your will get fire or will catch fire. But you are ready to pay a small amount to make it assured that even though your house got fired and nothing is left, you are going to receive handful of amount in exchange of it. Okay. So to make it assured, you are paying that minimum amount that is called the insurance premium. Okay. Is it clear? So then comes now when you have a large amount of money, you are ready to invest a very small amount of it for a lottery. Okay. That is why people purchase lottery tickets and so many lottery tickets are sold. Okay. Because whenever you are going to purchase a single lottery ticket, your entire money or entire monetary value is not going to change. If you have 10 lakhs and you are purchasing a lottery ticket with 10 rupees only, then your entire wealth is hardly going to be affected. But once you are purchasing a lottery ticket, there is even a chance in a billion, but there still exists a chance that your wealth may get double. Okay. So this property is called risk neutral property. That is, you are investing a very small amount to a lottery without taking any risk. The linearity of your wealth will remain constant. There will not be any variation in it, and that property is called risk neutral. Are you getting it? So then, then comes that you have some expected utility in your mind, and the fact is that you may also going to face a post decision disappointment. Actually, you are going to expect many things by setting the utilities or by taking, you are thinking that you are taking the optimal action with which you are going to gain the most, but it is not the case always. Okay. Then what happens? There occurs a post decision disappointment. Okay. So this is the risk neutral property. Okay. Now the how the expected utility or post decision disappointment occurs. That is, well, I have already mentioned in my last class that you are going to choose your optimal action by maximizing the expected utility. How you are going to compute the expected utility? Expected utility is this. Okay. Someone today might have asked me that how this is computed over not is not computed over states and all those things. Please remember, whenever we are going to compute the question that I have given you, that in a partially observable environment, in the partially observable environment, the state, we have some idea about the state, underlying state. That's why we are only going to choose the optimal action. Okay. That's why the action is a variable. Given a number of actions, we are going to choose the optimal one. Okay. That is maximizing our expected. Oh, so you want to discuss the quiz? Just give me 5 minutes because I have much more to teach you today. Otherwise, we'll be late. Um, Okay, just we have a quick discussion of the quiz, and then just give me 5 more minutes, and I shall discuss the quiz. Okay. Now, the best, uh, the expected utility is actually why it is not so. The way we are expecting and the way the expected utility reflects the optimal action, why the optimal action is not always the optimal one. This is the fact actually, why it is not the optimal one. Where although we are computing the expected utility and we are optimizing the action, still the action may not always be the optimal one. Why? Because there are a few reasons. One of the reasons is expected utility is correctly computed correctly with respect to probability model. Okay. Now, probability model correctly reflects the stochastic process, and we will get expected utility if the whole process is repeated many times. Now, in reality, what happens that we actually oversimplify the process. Either we don't know enough, either we don't know each and every detail, each and every possibilities, either we don't know it, or computation of true utility is actually very, very difficult. That's why we makes the process simplified, we makes the utility function simplified, and accordingly we compute the expected utility. Therefore, the thing that we actually are left with is not the actual expected utility, rather it is estimated expected utility. Okay. So now estimated expected utility is denoted by, say, denoted as this. Okay. So estimated expected utility actually is, that is, we don't have the idea about true utility, but we are computing the estimated expected utility. Now, the fact is that whenever we are going to compute the estimated expected utility of a system, uh, Vekata, do you want to annotate the document? Hello? Now, the fact is that what we uh, think that the error, ideally, the error between expected estimate utility and the true estimated utility should be zero. But that is not the case in reality. So we may have an error function with zero mean and and some standard deviation. Okay. So during the generation of estimation, there could be two types of error, either positive error or negative. Now, whenever we are going to select the action with highest utility estimate, since we are maximizing the expected utility, so highest utility estimate, we are by default, we are moving towards positive error. Okay. So the curves that looks like is this type. That is, ideally the error plot should be that where the mean should be in zero. But since we are becoming biased, we are being biased towards good or towards more and more preferable outcome. Therefore, we are incorporating the positive errors unknowingly. Okay, we are looking for maximizing the expected utility, and that is how we are inducing bias. Now, K here, if you see, this is the error in utility estimate. Okay, the bold line shows that is how ideally the error curve should be with zero mean. But the dashed line shows the actual ones. K is the number of choices here. If you are asked to choose something between three choices or among three choices, this is how the curve will be. And here you can see the mean gets shifted to 0.85. That is the error would be, that is the disappointment, the amount of disappointment here lies is equal to 85% of the standard deviation. Okay. So this is how the more the number of choices are, the more you are going to deviate from zero mean. And when here the choice that is given here is equal to 30, and from that curve you can see that the mean is approximately twice of the standard deviation. The disappointment is actually twice of the standard deviation. This is how we are inducing bias, and the more the choices we are given with, we are becoming biased, and that is how we are choosing the wrong actions. Okay, so let me finish here. I shall give the examples and everything to you in my next class. Let's take the quiz. Okay, I know that there might be some confusion in the last part, because I don't have the time to give you some examples, to provide some more examples. Anyway, let's discuss the quiz. Okay, let me stop sharing the screen and discuss the quiz. Okay. Okay. Now, the first question, that is, agents take decision on. Agents take decision with belief and desire. That I have discussed in my last class. That is, agents take decision with belief and desire. Okay. Just ask me if you have any other doubts or queries. Okay. So agents take decision. The correct answer is with belief and desire. Partial observability means that agent may know the current state. It is not that agent should always know the current state. Okay. Now, probability of outcome of state is bar from state is upon taking action A and evidence E in a partially observable environment could be expressed as P, probability of results A equals to S bar over A comma E. Okay. So S bar is the estimated state, A is the action, and E is the event. Okay. So the number with which agent's preference gets quantified is known as utility function, as you know. Now, maximum expected utility is computed upon extracting out the maximum value of expected utility on every possible action that I have explained just now. Once again, the preference constraint of orderability agents given two choices A and B, that any of the that is here three options I have given, and the correct answer is any of the three options given here should follow at a time. Okay. Now, which of the following statement violates the law of transitivity? Obviously, that one, that is D, preferred over B, preferred over C, preferred over D. It could not be happen. So This is the violation of law of transitivity. If an agent is indifferent between choices D, E, and F, and if P is greater than Q, which of the following statement is true? It is the last one, that is P. That is the lottery PD and 1 minus PA equally preferable between PE 1 minus P. Okay. ABC follows continuity with decreasing preference P greater than Q greater than R, following of which is true, that is P QA, comma 1 minus QC less preferable over P, comma A 1 minus P, comma C. If UA is greater than UB, then obviously it is going to be B is less preferable than A. So this is what we are going to, we have already discussed. So if you have any further query, you can contact me via mail. Okay. So that's all for today. Let's see you in the next class, that is on Saturday again. Okay. Have a good day. Bye. Bye.